We're back working on this mini skid steer track frame. As you just saw, I went ahead and bolted up the first slides. Now I know in the previous video I said I was going to use 12mm bolts through here, simply because on this backside slide here, that's what actually, the bolt goes through the machine, through this track frame into this slide here, and that's what bolts the front of the track frame, as well as the rollers of course, to the machine. Because it's just a hole in the machine, I'm just going to drill that out to 16mm. I think having the bigger bolts in here, this is going to get a lot of hammering, especially like if you're in rock, like if you're in heavy rocks or something like that, they're going to hit the head of these bolts. Like I'm lucky we've got that brace there now, that's going to take the brunt of material from hitting the heads of these bolts. Like I know I could put, I even thought of getting a bit of pipe and welding a washer on the bottom of it and putting it over so you physically can't harm the end of the bolts. But then we're going to be looking at like big, where's that socket? It's like it's going to have to be that much bigger, and I think that's, we're going to start literally running down the bottom here, and I didn't like that idea. But we've got 16mm high tensile bolts in there. I think they will be well and truly good enough. They haven't got, I have got spring washers for these, but this is all obviously got to come apart. They're got to get hardened and whatnot, and we'll put a splash of paint on it. Now the last thing we've got to do before we can bolt this back up is we went ahead and designed up this brace. This is actually for the other side track frame. I'll show you that in a minute, but it's pretty much gonna sit something like that. So that's going to take all that twisting out of it, stop it from cracking there. We'll go out to the other side and so it's pretty much going to bolt on like that. I don't think that looks too homemade. I really didn't want it to look homemade. I know on the 925s, I think they're called, it's got a hump here and a bolt runs through. But the reason we had to go so high is there's a main hydraulic line here. You couldn't move it. It's got a bracket there and everything. The other side's fine. It was just more this side. And you can see there we've left it off the machine because this has got wide tracks on it. If you can see down in there, when they put wide tracks on it, they space it out 30mm. So this obviously has to be spaced out 30mm. So if you ever want to go narrow tracks, you can pull all the spaces out and then push this in, and it'll be as factory. I didn't want to weld this on and then that's it, you're stuck with wide tracks. Like if I have to, I want to be able to, narrow tracks aren't deer. So I wanted to be able to put narrow tracks on it if I got to fit through somewhere thin, and I didn't want this to hold me up or have to cut this off later. That's why in the bottom of it we've got this checkout here, because there's a factory weld there. So pretty much we've got to assemble the other one of these, weld it on the track frame, and then we can bolt everything up, and we'll just run a drill bit through the other side and put a bolt and nut. It may have been hard to tell on camera, but when you have these 6 bolts tightened up, the idler fork doesn't want, it's like quite hard to move, which that's fine. When we put the track frame back in the machine, we'll just have to keep these bolts a half a turn loose, set our track tension, tighten them up, and then as we put some hours on the machine, this will all loosen off and wear in and be how it is factory. We've got that track frame all bolted back up. I put all the good rollers that I had on this side. I've got to send those couple of bits in the front to get hardened, but I'll wait till I do the other side and everything before so I can send it all off in one go. But that brace we put in turned out not too bad. I was a little bit concerned that it was going to look really homemade and botched up, but that doesn't look too bad at all, if you ask me. And we've got our spacer in the top, so if we ever want to go narrow track, we pull that spacer out and that'll sit hard on the machine. With these holes here, I had to machine up a couple 5mm thick washers. These bolts were loose when I pulled this track frame off, and these holes were a little bit elongated, so the old bolts had chewed halfway through the bolts. That's how loose it was. So this whole thing would have been, especially with the amount of flex we had through here, this would have been just hammering and chewing away at those bolts. So we got nice new bolts, big thick washers, and I've tightened them up pretty much as tight as I want to go without pulling the threads out. So I'll probably do maybe 10-20 hours on the machine, double check these bolts. We've got our nice brace through here, which doesn't look too ugly. At least it's nice and straight. Everything's going to be good, and hopefully we get a lot of life out the modification we've done in the front. So check it out, I just finished grinding off those slides, and then they've actually left, or had, these bolts have come loose and it's ground into the track frame. That one there's not so bad, it's only about 1.5 mil, but this one's like, that's like 4 mil, and this is 6 mil material. That's, so obviously I'm gonna have to weld that up, and even like, look how butchered all that is. So obviously this rear idle has been absolutely buggered at one stage of its life, and they've just left it flopping around, and it's smashed all the end of this track frame up. And it even looks like that ear's bent up. I can feel it. That's a good 3.5 mil just there. The front of this track frame's actually not bad at all. We've got about 1 mil and a bit gap. Like, that's nowhere near like the other one. The other one was a good 4 mil. Where I think that's just been squeezed together, because these track rollers, I reckon that's their second go round with bearings in them, and some of them, a couple of them have been machined flat again, which that's what I was going to do. I can't remember, there was a bad one, all the shaft was a bit banged up here, but it was still going to be runnable. I think because they've been machined, what I was getting at is because they've been machined, like, they're not tight in the frame anymore. Well, that one actually seems to be alright. Like, there's a bit of, and I think that's why this has been squeezed together, because it would have had that bad roller that's been machined and messed with. They've just squeezed the heck out of, or tightened the bolt up, and it's crushed the hell out of that frame there. Yeah, that one's the same. And then it sort of goes back to normal up there. So that's probably alright, because we can just pull that up when we put a roller in it, and that should fix that up alright. And then the front of it, which I thought was going to be, is actually, I might just squeeze that together a touch just to get that mil gap out of it, and that's fine. That's a lot better. It's funny, the other side was bent up here and sort of bent right out, and then this one's all bent through here, so, and then we just got to, I'm hoping I got that, I think that's a 19 mil size hole. I'll just weld up the back of that, and then try and grind that as flat as I can. See, that one's the same. I might have to do that as well. Just alright, we got it like the other side. I went about 2 mil, so that should be pretty right to weld on. pretty good. Oh, this drilling. Got that bolt sliding in there nice and easy now. I just went ahead and cleaned up all the burrs that were here, even around this edge here was all burred out from where that idler would have just been flopping around there for ages to sort of burr all that up. But I'm glad I got that all fixed. Don't buy Milwaukee drills, they are junk. As soon as you put a bit of load on them with a bit bigger drill bit in them, they do that safety cut thing. Where if I had my Makita drill here, that would either snap the drill in half or tear it out your hands before it would cut out like that. we got that second track frame all finished off. Like the other side, when you do up these 16mm bolts, you can't move that slide. It needs to wear in. So again, we'll just have to leave them half a turn loose, put it together, set our track tension, and then we can tighten them up. But this is ready to go back in the machine. We'll give it a quick splash of paint and then we can bolt it up. So I've been mucking around with these rollers here. I pressed apart the two that we haven't yet, and I discovered this roller, you can see the damage there of how long that's been left before they've replaced the bearings in it. And not only that, but you can see the thickness difference between the two of how much material's gone. And not only that, they've faced them when they've redone them again, but they've faced them that much. It's about 7mm short they've done there. And that'd be why our track frame on those two back rollers there is so bent in, is because they've faced them too much, and it's just pulled all that in. And I was gonna, when I bolt it back up to the machine, just pull that out a little bit. But what I was going to do is just put a washer in there and call it done. But then the rollers are going to be running 7mm out of alignment, and will that matter so much on this little machine? I don't know. But it's probably going to cause excessive wear on the side of the track because it's going to have to snake through the rollers. Whether that is actually going to happen or not, or it might be completely fine with it, I don't know. But I think I'm just going to have to machine up new shafts, which I really didn't want to do. These rollers are about $250 each. I've been priced up. Now I can get aftermarket ones, but I think they're not in stock for a couple months yet. So I really want to get this machine back and running. So I think what we'll do is, I'm hoping that I've got some material the right diameter, which it looks like that's us right there. And I've got a fair bit of it. Yeah, okay. So I think that's what we'll be doing. So I've changed my mind with these rollers. I've just pressed in the old shafts. What I'm just gonna, because these will be the third set of bearings that these rollers have had. Now I couldn't get the heavy duty seal that was in these when I pulled them apart. So if there's a rock that gets jammed in there, that's just going to chew that seal out real quick, and it's going to destroy these rollers. So I think what I'll do is I'll run these for now. When these wear out, I'll get a set of genuine ones. The genuine ones are also oil filled, and they don't have an exposed steel like this. They've got a big plate there, and it's a lot harder for rocks to get in there. So that is, the factory ones are a far better design than these aftermarket ones here. So my solution for this is, because we've only got a couple mil to the roller, plus where they're 3 or 4 mil short anyway, I've just got a washer here. I know it's not ideal at all because the track's not going to be running true to the rollers, but for the, what's that, 3 mil of washer, I can't see that affecting the wear on the track. For the time, the machine's got 1300 hours and these have had 3 sets of bearings in it, so not unless these rollers were pinched off another machine and put in this one, I don't know. But I'm going to run that for now. When these bearings go, I'm just going to get a genuine set. So we just got these idler forks back from the hardener, as you can sort of see from the discoloration over it. So I'm really stoked he was able to harden these. Dad and I had a concern of it was going to crack out the weld, but with talking to the guy, because it all gets heated up as one, it was no problem at all. So this was hardened to a Rockwell 48, which is almost as hard as a file. I think a file's around 50. So I'm glad this got hardened because we don't have to look at this again. This was a lot of work, even though it doesn't look like it, by setting this up in the milling machine, milling it all, reaming out this so it fits that idler nice and tight. But finally we can get them back in the machine and get everything buttoned up. We've got our new idler on this one. 2 people would make it a lot easier. I wonder if I go through like that. That should work. this track loosened off a little bit, so we'll just tighten him up. Well, that turned out to be a far bigger job than I had intended on. But I'm glad we went to the extra effort of fully rebuilding those front idler forks, getting them sent off, getting them hardened. So we shouldn't ever have to look at this issue again, especially with putting that brace in the back there. This rear idler is no longer going to be bending up and cracking that frame there. I wish I got it on camera because this rear sprocket was nearly touching that idler there. But the one thing I'll have to get is a new set of tracks, because when I bought this machine, this track here, this side was jumping, and because the previous owner would have left it for so long, it's really worn down that edge. So That's why I flipped the track to how it was before, so when I go pick up material now, it's not going to jump. It only seems to, when you really screw them back on the angle, that it still does it. But it's such a shame though, because these tracks there's got plenty of life in them, but again, because he's left it like that, it's just worn them out. But I hope to use this on plenty of jobs in the future. I'm looking forward to getting a few more hours on the thing. Once we do put a few more hours on it, I will go through and check all the bolts, make sure everything's tight. But that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching.